Alright guys, another day, another strength, and I'm back with another video today. Today we're talking about back training, right? Specifically, the holy trinity of back training, which I'll get to in a moment in the video. But let's start off by defining the back, right? So back is different than many other muscle groups because we have specific muscles for those. There's like, the quads, the pecs. There's, doing chest, you're training the pecs. With the back, there's a lot of muscles involved, right? It's kind of mysterious. So the primary muscles are the traps, the lats, the spinal erectors, and I would also include the rear delts. Those are like the four major ones. There are other smaller muscles like the teres major, and then there's like muscles of the rotator cuff. You could kind of include those, some of the rhomboids, some of the scapular muscles. But in the primary muscles is the ones that I listed. So what is the goal with back training, right? So in my case, the goal is strength. And then as a secondary benefit from training for strength, I'm going to get size and injury prevention, right? A stronger muscle is a bigger muscle and vice versa. And then it's going to prevent injury, right? Because I'm going to have a big, strong back. I'm not going to have tweaks, I'm not going to have aches. And I like that a lot. So, and it also translates to a more appealing physique, I will say as well. So not that that is the goal for myself personally, but that is a nice byproduct. The back is the foundation, in my opinion, right? It transfers to all the main lifts, so the squat, the overhead press, the bench press, the deadlift, and then of course the chin up and the row as well. The back is instrumental in all those lifts, and I think it's comparatively easier to build up your arms, chest, and shoulders, the front muscles, if you will, if you already have a decent sized back. And it's a lot easier to get out of whack and just focus on the glory muscles and just build up like the pecs and the shoulders and the biceps. Training the back is a great jumping off point for total development as far as strength, physique, injury prevention, etc., right? Let's talk about the functions of the muscles of the back, right? So, three main functions. This goes for all muscles, not just the back muscles. There's concentric, which is shortening. So if I use like a bicep curl as an example, concentric is like that, right? The way up. Eccentric is the way down. And then isometric is if you were just like holding the middle or just any position, right? You just kind of hold it there. That's isometric. And so back training can get kind of complicated because there's a lot of muscles. So we're going to kind of like simplify here. We focus on the largest muscles of the back, the lats, traps, and the rear delts, and then the erectors, I guess. We can target three primary movement patterns that are going to train this concentric, eccentric, and isometric motion of the back. And those are chin-ups, rows, and deadlifts, right? That's right, deadlifts. I know, very controversial for training the back. The chins primarily work the lats via a large degree of shoulder extension and humeral adduction. So it's basically just when you bring your elbow down like that and you bring the arm towards the body. So those two things are what the lats do. So you're getting a lot of that with the chin up. You're getting some of that with the barbell row. And then you're also getting an isometric lat contraction in the deadlift, which is why it's important to do those as well. And then as far as the rows, they do the same thing essentially, but they also include a lot more scapular movement, which is going to force the traps and the rear delts as well to work as prime movers, concentrically and eccentrically. And then in certain cases too, like if you do a flexion row, which is like the Mike Israetel, his favorite kind of row, you're also going to use the spinal erectors concentrically and eccentrically. Primarily that's thoracic spinal erectors, so like the upper back up here, those ones are going to be doing that. But yeah, great stuff. And then on top of that, you have the deadlift, which trains the entire back isometrically and allows for the most weight to be lifted of any movement, which I think is very valuable, right? So you can argue that, pull-ups and rows are going to be enough for a well-developed back, and they might be, but you're missing the spinal erector loading of the deadlift, right? Because they're working the heck out of those isometrically. And then also just, the traps and the lats are still being loaded in a deadlift isometrically, which some people are going to argue is not optimal. I'm going to argue that it is optimal because you're able to load, tons and tons of weight, probably twice as much as you can load for one of those other movements in a lot of cases. But yeah, there's no better movement for the lumbar and thoracic spinal erectors, and arguably the traps as well. If we're talking about the weighted stretch as being the most, hypertrophic thing that there is out there, like there's no bigger weighted stretch than the traps in a deadlift, as far as any movement goes, really, right? So you can implement, this is one thing I want to point out, specifically for deadlifts. People like to replace the deadlift with the good morning. You can't replace it entirely. You can implement the good morning and, place it in there for periods of time, but you can't entirely replace it because then you're going to miss out on the traps, the lats, and so you're going to be missing some development there, right? So those are the three main movements, right? chin-ups slash pull-ups, rows of any kind, and then deadlifts. So that also includes Romanian deadlifts and other deadlift variations as well, rack pulls, deficit deadlifts, all that good stuff. Pick your favorite. And then as a bonus here, right? As a bonus, so we got all those. As far as the muscles of the back, the lats are the apple of most people's eyes, I think, right? Those are a big muscle group. People like to look nice and wide. They want to get that V taper. So as a bonus, right, there's a little bonus lift here. You can add in some lat, quote unquote, isolation, because they're not really isolation movements, but the pullover and the straight arm push down, those are great movements because they train all the muscles involved in shoulder extension. So it's the lats, the teres major, the rear delts. And they also train the muscles of the rib cage, including the serratus, which kind of like comes around the ribs here. That's going to bolster your back development from the other lifts, right? So a little bonus at the end there. The pullover, especially, is really a compound movement, right? You're using, like I said, the lats, the teres, the rear delts, the serratus. I think some of the other rib cage muscles as well. The chest as well, you're getting a big stretch there. So great movement. But yeah, that's really it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, say something in the comments. Let me know what you want to see in the next video, and I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, goodbye.